Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Get out there, play hard, enjoy those games.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Go Big or Go Home Tournament Time, youngster. How are you doing today? We're going over another preview. It is a beautiful snowy morning in Wisconsin. I have my Inter Peak coffee as we're recording on the Inter Peak studio line. What's going on in Florida, though? It's snowing up here in Wisconsin.
It is not snowing here in Florida, I must report. Just so the listeners know, for yesterday's show, we're doing these shows earlier in the morning as opposed to usually we're doing these in the afternoon. So, again, if my voice sounds groggy, that's because I woke up 10 minutes ago. Now, technically. So, anyway, just a little heads up. But also, what was the other thing I was going to say? I'm already forgetting things, and we just started the show. Yeah, I don't remember.
Not good, youngster.
What else I was going to say. No, not good. But luckily, Troy, I do my homework for these shows. I've got, I don't know what it is, 7, 8 tabs up open right now on my computer to help my brain out. But, yeah, anyway.
If you were a coffee drinker, you could brew a nice pot of Inter Peak coffee, but you're not a coffee drinker.
That's correct. That was the other thing I was going to say. It is not snowing here, and I don't have coffee. I have water. So, yes. So far today, I have had my vitamin, and I've had some water. That's what I've had in the last 10 minutes. So, yes.
Yeah, well, we always have coffee on our show, though, because Inter Peak Coffee is our studio line sponsor.
Yes.
So we always have coffee in the studio.
Yes. Shout out to Inter Peak Coffee. Check out interpeakcoffee.com. There's a bunch of different things you can order. It's not even just coffee. They have been our sponsor for a few months now. I don't want to give the exact number because I am not sure. Soon after I have woken up. But regardless, shout out to interpeakcoffee.com. All of the orders, by the way, are shipping free. So just a little perk to support a local business if you would like. So with that said,
sounds good, youngster. Not only do we have brackets today, there was some seriously big news in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Like real big news. 2 coaches on the same day got axed the day after the brackets came out. Miller in Indiana, out. Pitino in Minnesota, out. We're going to talk briefly on that, then we're going to get to our brackets for today.
Yes. So very quickly, we can go over these firings more when the season ends, to kind of transition out of basketball. We can talk more about these because, again, this show is dedicated to the East region. Yesterday's show was the West region, and we talked about that was Gonzaga's region. That was the only Big Ten team there was Iowa. So if you want to check out the West region, click on thegruelingtruth.com, click around, click on something, and you're bound to find, however you're listening to this, scroll up, scroll down, click around, search Go Big or Go Home, whatever you want to do, and you can find the West region if you'd like to listen to that, or if you already have and you're listening to this now for the second day in a row, the East region, Michigan's number 1 seeded region, then kudos to you. We'll have another 2 regions out the next couple days with the South and Baylor's region and the Midwest with Illinois' region to kind of get everything wrapped up in a bow for Friday's start, technically Thursday for the Big Ten because of Michigan State, and we'll talk about them today. But to get into Miller and Pitino very quickly, Archie Miller, again, like Troy said, was fired yesterday as we're doing the show on Tuesday, March 16th, so this happened Monday, March 15th. He just completed his 4th year at Indiana, and I will say this, that it is Indiana. And his first year at Indiana, he did nothing postseason-wise. His team went 16-15. It's your first year. It is what it is. Second year, 19-16, made it to the NIT. Okay, you're going in the right direction. Third year, last year, 20-12. They certainly were going to at least have a chance to play their way into the NCAA tournament. So you're kind of making strides a little bit. And then this past year, they go 12-15. And I don't remember exactly what their losing streak was. I don't remember if it was 5. Yes, it was 5, I want to say. I think they were 7-7, and then they lost their last 5. And then in the Big Ten tournament, they did nothing. So it seems that you could argue was kind of harsh, but at the same time, it's Indiana, and in 4 years, that fourth year, if you go 7-12 in Big Ten play, if you lose your last 6 games, if you go 12-15, that's just not going to cut it at Indiana. I don't necessarily think anything less of Archie Miller and think he's a bad coach because what he did at Dayton was phenomenal. And he had Indiana trending in the right direction, but it's kind of like Michigan football, except Michigan football doesn't like to pull the trigger. It seems as much as Indiana basketball likes to. So you have to produce pretty quickly.
Well, let's be honest, youngster. You look at it last year, like you said, 20 wins. They were right there on the verge of making the NCAA tournament. Of course, as we know, there was no tournament.
Right.
But then you look at this year, and some people want to point to COVID and say, well, because of COVID. But that losing streak, youngster, Indiana was primed, just 3 weeks ago? That we had Indiana in the conversation of making the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
So it makes you wonder, was it kind of harsh after trending upward? Well, maybe. But maybe there's other things that we don't know about either. Because that was a long losing streak. And again, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Indiana as a team that could have been. That could have been Team 10. Team 10 from the Big Ten in the dance. And the other coach we're going to talk about could have been Team 11. There could have been, and we talked about it all year. There very well could have been 11 Big Ten teams in this year's tournament. So did he fail expectations? My answer is yes.
Yeah. After
you go 19 wins, 20 wins, and then you fall flat on your face at the end of the season, yes. And I'm not about firing coaches. So I'm not saying this was justified, but again, like you said, big thing, it's Indiana. You better win, and you better win soon. If you don't, you're out, and that's what Miller found out. So that's all I got on that, youngster. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. We can move on to Pitino.
Yeah, Pitino, he had the 1 year head coaching-wise. He was a young head coach at the time at FIU. And then the year after that, he went to Minnesota, 2013-14. His first year at Minnesota, 25-13 overall. They won the NIT. Okay, that works. The 2 years after that, 18-15, no tournament. 8-23, no tournament. Well, you better turn things around. What did he do 2016-17? He turned things around, 24-10, got to the NCAA tournament, lost in the first round. The year after that, yeah.
I think I lost you there. At least I'm lost.
I'm here. You here?
Yeah.
Oh, you're kind of.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
I might hit a bad area. It is snowing up here, and I got you on the Bluetooth. So, hands-free device. I do it safely. I do the show safe. I think I may have just lost you in range. Continue.
Yeah. So Minnesota, again, 2016-17, he did get them to the tournament. They lost in the first round. The year after that, 15-17, no tournament. 2018-19, 22-14, they got to the second round of the tournament. Okay, cool. What did he do his last 2 years? 15-16 last year, and then this year, 14-15. So they let him, there were certainly ups and downs. And at Minnesota, is 2 tournament berths in 2, 4, 6, 7 years good enough? I don't think it is, personally, because I know there's decent talent in the state of Minnesota that you can keep. We've seen this Minnesota team the last 5 years doing this show, and ultimately to make 2 NCAA tournaments, it just doesn't seem good enough. And, 3 15 or 14 win sub-500 seasons for Pitino at Minnesota 3 of the last 4 years, that's just bad. I mean, because you can pad your non-conference and churn out a winning record.
Or if you could just win a few on the road.
Yeah. And part of that, to me, honestly, has to do with coaching. Part of that is not. Part of it, sure, it can be on the players, but if you can't go on the road and win a single game, part of that's coaching to me.
I know, youngster, we're going to be up against a time constraint today. We got a time limit on the show today, but I want to touch on that point. That's where I was going with this. I coach college soccer, so I was on the road a number of times, and the organization that goes into a road trip, it all falls on the coach, youngster, or your administration, or the people that you have organizing that trip. It is not, hey, let's get on a bus and go stay in a hotel and play a game. There's so many little intrinsic things that have to happen to make it feel comfortable. And for them to not win on the road, I truly agree with you. A lot of that falls on the coach. How are you organizing these trips? It's not all about the play. Why are your players playing so bad on the road? You need to organize a road trip that makes it comfortable for your players, basically a schedule of what's going on so that when it's game day, these guys are comfortable and ready to play. And there's a lot that goes into a road trip, and if you can't organize that, get somebody that knows how to. And I just look at all the road trips I went on coaching college soccer. It's not, hey, let's get on a bus and go. No, there is planning that goes into the itinerary. Where are we going to eat? When are we going to meet? Where are the guys staying? If it is, and I can say it on this show because it's on thegruelingtruth.com, thank you for hosting our show on the Inner Peak Coffee studio line. If it's a shit show on the road, youngster, your players are going to follow the lead of their coach.
Right.
And I remember one road trip we did run into a roadblock. The bus broke down on the way to North Dakota. How about that? How about a bus breaking down on a Friday afternoon when we've got a Saturday morning game at 10 a.m.?
Yeah, that
we didn't roll into a hotel till 2 a.m. But guess what, youngster?
Right.
Did my guys use it as an excuse? No. Why? Because I didn't use it as an excuse. The bus broke down. I talked to the guys. I'm like, hey, you better get your rest now. We're not going to be rolling into North Dakota till about 2 o'clock. We got to get up. We got a game tomorrow, so get your rest now. It all comes down to how does the coach handle all of those discrepancies on the road, keep the team calm, and get them ready to play. You just have to have that authority figure on the road. And I'm not sure if that's what it was, but I'll tell you, road trips, I hated them. I did not like them because of all the organization that had to go into it. But I just wanted to share that, youngster.
Yeah, valid point. Last thing I'll say with Pitino, 8 years at Minnesota, he only had one winning Big Ten season when they went 11-7. Otherwise, they were sub 500 every single year. So there you go. That's just not getting it done. Moving on. We've got
all right. Let's get into some. East Indiana region, right? It's not the East region. It's the East Indiana region.
I don't even know if it geographically makes sense. Like, is this region played in the eastern part of Indiana, the state of Indiana? I honestly don't know. Maybe it is.
I don't know. I'm a little slap happy at 5:18 my time.
So, anyway, East region. We've got 3 teams in this region to go over, so there's more to go over. So we will get right into things here. Michigan is the 1 seed. By the way, yesterday I mentioned, I was trying to think off the top of my head, like, are there any major injuries the Big Ten is facing going into this tournament? I don't think so. Eli Brooks had an injury for Michigan. He played in the Big Ten tournament. We talked about that for a minute. And we talked about Joe Wieskamp in Iowa and how he had an injury going into the Big Ten tournament. He played in the Big Ten tournament, so he seemed fine. I forgot that Isaiah Livers had to get carried off the court against Maryland in Michigan's first game, and it came out that he had a stress fracture in his right foot. And what was it, yesterday? I was reading, he called that, he said that if he were to return, yes, for this NCAA tournament, it would be miraculous. So that is big news because Isaiah Livers is not just a guy. He is Michigan's second leading scorer. He is a senior. He is not their best player, but he is a very good player. And just to give a little context, the past 2 years, Isaiah Livers is in the lineup. Michigan's 33-9. Without him, they're 6-7. So again, not all of that is going to be perfectly, apples to apples. I'm sure some of those games were against North Carolina AT&T. Without him, some of those games, like we saw in the Big Ten tournament, could have been against the number 2 seed in Ohio State, and they can't get it done. But again, that said, 6-7 without him the past 2 years. So this team relies on him to shoot the ball, to defend, to be a leader, to do a number of things. Again, he's never been their best player in my opinion, but he is a very, very good, reliable starter. So to be without him, to me, Troy, I think Michigan goes from an elite team, a 1 seed, to about a 3 seed, in my opinion. I think they're really good. If you take the second best, the second highest scorer off any of these teams in the Big Ten, any of these teams in the country, you're going to knock them a seed or 2. That's just the way it's going to be. Villanova, their senior point guard, got hurt for the year. It's like, well, they were probably going to be a 3 or a 4 seed. Now they're a 5. And realistically, are they even as good as being a 5 seed? Probably not. So this is a big hurt for Michigan, for sure. Can they still – go ahead, Troy.
Well, I was going to say, the other thing that it does, youngster, is not only do you lose a good player, you now have to promote somebody off your bench into the starting 5, and so now you lose the depth on the bench. And we know that in March Madness, and we talked about it yesterday, you have to have a really good starting 5, and then you have to have like we talked about, the great bench. When you get to the bench, that's usually an issue. But, a lot of these teams are probably, unless you're like a mid-major youngster, even there I'd say, most of these teams only go about 8 deep. You're only going to have quality minutes with like 3 guys off the bench, right? So now you have to take one of those 3 and insert him into the starting lineup where Livers was going to be, and now you have to promote another guy that's maybe not used to playing 14 or 15 minutes. Normally he's used to playing 5 or 6. That affects the team. That affects that second unit. So there's some other things that go along with this injury, not just losing the good player. It also can put a big hurt on the rotation that Howard uses off of the bench, because one of those bench players is now going to be promoted into the starting 5. That's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely. Livers, just to give some context, he averaged the most minutes per game on Michigan, 31.6 per game. Franz Wagner, who's, you could say, a better player, 31.3. Dickinson on the inside, averaged only 25.5. Mike Smith, transfer point guard from Columbia, 31.3. I mean, he was the top minute getter. He was second in points. He shot 43% from 3. He grabbed 6 rebounds a game. I mean, this is
just to add to that, youngster. You just went over the minutes. Is the guy they insert going to take up 31 quality minutes? You might have to use 2 guys to do that.
The next, I'm looking at their bench. They basically do go 8 deep, realistically. Shondae Brown is a guard off the bench, so if they choose to go smaller, they can use him. He averages 20 minutes a game. Austin Davis is a big, realistically. He averages 11 minutes a game. And then Brandon Johns is kind of another wing, you could say. and he averages just over 10. That's kind of it. So if they want to replicate size-wise, length-wise, you can go to a guy who averages 10 minutes. If you want to go small, you can go to your only guard that you trust off the bench, or if you want to go big, you can go with your only true big off the bench that you trust. This team is not crazy deep. There's some teams that go 9, 10 deep. That would help, but if you only go 8 deep, you only have so many bodies to trust, unless you go deep into your bench, which they may do, but we will see. So I had to get that.
All right, let's get to the games. Let's get to the games, youngster.
So Michigan, we'll wrap up these 3 teams here. Michigan's the 1 seed in this East region. Maryland is the 10, and then Michigan State can be the 11 because they play in the play-in game on Thursday night, very late Thursday night, which I appreciate because I close at work Thursday night. So for that game to start at 10 p.m. Eastern works out perfectly for me. So I appreciate that for most people.
And youngster, our shows will be wrapped up, so Friday morning you don't have to get up to keep me company on my drive to work.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. So, yes, Michigan the 1, Maryland the 10, Michigan State can be the 11. We'll go through Michigan right now because we've been talking about them for the last 10 or so minutes here. Michigan, they played the winner of Mount St. Mary's, Texas Southern. That's a play-in game for the 16 seeds. To be honest with you, I didn't even look at them, Troy. Livers, no livers, makes no difference. It's not 100% certain that Livers is out for this entire tournament, but I'm under the guise that if you call it miraculous for you to play in this tournament yourself, then I'm going to assume you're going to be out for probably the whole tournament. That's just the way I'm thinking of it. So, anyway, against Mount St. Mary's or Texas Southern, it doesn't matter. I clicked Michigan's name. I don't even have to look at it. And maybe that's wrong with me to do because we all just clicked Virginia's name a couple years ago, and they lost in the first round. But I'm confident in this Michigan group. Call me crazy. In the second round.
Yeah, well, ever since that Virginia debacle, youngster, you got to kind of at least, you can't say it's 100% guaranteed because it's never happened. So now you got to say it's like 99% guarantee. But, yeah, Michigan is a better team. Again, it might be this first game without Livers, maybe a little different, but it might also be that blessing in disguise for Howard to figure out what he wants to do to fill that spot. But it is a game that maybe it'll be a little closer than normal without Livers, but I think Michigan should advance in round 1. And honestly, they're a much better team than both of these teams. But again, Howard's first time in the big dance as a head coach because he didn't get to go last year, and now has to deal with an injury. I'm not saying they're going to get upset in the first round, but this game could be closer than what a 116 seed should be. That's what I'm going to say.
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan is like just hanging in there at halftime, because a lot of times these lower seeds for the first half will be able to hang with the big dogs. And then Michigan's done a good job all year, youngster. I used the Wisconsin matchup. Howard, he's doing a good job. He could come out in the second half and just blow them out at that point. So we'll see. They should win that first round, though. All right, carry on.
To me, there should be no issue. The second round, that's where you immediately start getting an issue. They play the winner of number 8 LSU, number 9 St. Bonaventure. Both these teams, you can certainly argue, are better than their seeds. They probably should have been a line or two higher. LSU, they almost just beat Alabama in the SEC tournament, and Alabama's basically been red hot down the stretch. LSU's
I was
got
listening to that game, youngster. I texted you. I even texted you about that, remember? Saying I'm getting LSU, Alabama on the radio up in Wisconsin.
You're right.
Yeah, that LSU team is actually pretty good. I'm debating. I know we're a Go Big show. I'm debating about taking LSU over Michigan with the Livers injury. I really am. LSU sounded good on the radio.
Yeah. they've got a number of really good scorers. And if Michigan loses something scoring-wise because of livers, which they will, that's just the way it is. Obviously, they can shoot 55% from 3 one game and score 90 points, but overall their offense is going to be worse without livers. And LSU, again, they can score. They can defend. It's going to be, if they play LSU, it's going to be really tough to get past the second round. I've completed my bracket in the East, this region, but I had certainly thought about taking that upset. And if they play St. Bonaventure, I think they finished 16-4 this year. They're the best Atlantic 10 team this year for sure. And the best Atlantic 10 team every year is usually pretty damn good. And this team is pretty damn good. They're really good at shooting the three. Defensively, they're really strong. So, again, both these teams to me are underseeded just based on what I've read. I have not watched St. Bonaventure play a single game, but just based on what I've heard, what I've read the last couple days, they seem better than a 9 seed. So, again, I kind of see Michigan as more of a 3. And I see LSU as more of a 6. I see St. Bonnie as more of a 7. That second-round matchup immediately is going to be tough. If they get past that, then they play most likely Florida State. Florida State seems to be the big favorite to get past 5-seeded Colorado. Florida State's the 4 in this region. If you play Florida State, you're starting to get into playing more NBA players, a top 15 pick in Scotty Barnes, who's a wing. That's somebody that Livers could have defended, but instead you don't have Livers. So that NBA body, top 15 pick, by the way, is their 3rd leading scorer. Florida State can shoot the 3 well. They're long. They're athletic. They have a 7-1 guy on the inside to defend Dickinson. So he's not as good as Dickinson, but they have an able body to match up with him. So Dickinson shouldn't completely kill Florida State if they play each other. So that's, to me, that matchup right there screams, uh-oh, if you're Michigan. If they play Colorado, at least from what I've read, from what I've heard, they're just a really solid team all around. They're just good at everything. There's nobody that frightens you, but they are a very good, solid team. They're a 5 seed for a reason. They're obviously good. But Florida State, it seems, is more interesting, for sure. There's more damage to be done with Florida State. There's a higher ceiling, I think, for Florida State than Colorado. If Michigan has to get past LSU, St. Bonaventure, Florida State in the Sweet 16, that's tough. So this, to me, Troy, this is the most most open region of the 4.
It's pretty competitive.
Yeah. We think Michigan can go down in round 2, and then, if they get to the Elite 8, you're most likely playing the 2 or 3 seed. Again, Alabama's been red hot as the 2 seed as of late. They can get up and down the court. They pose a number of problems for anybody. And then Texas has also been red hot down the stretch. They've got a couple different NBA bigs, first-round picks from what I read, on their front court, which, again, obviously matches up perfectly well against Dickinson. And then they've got good guard play, too. So Texas is a really hot 3 seed. Alabama's a really hot 2 seed.
Well, in Alabama, youngster, people were throwing Alabama in the discussion for a 1 seed at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're right there. This is exactly how it's supposed to play out, is that the best 2 seed, quote-unquote, is with the worst 1 seed, which the NCAA Tournament Committee said Michigan was the worst 1 seed. So, and they didn't get any favors by getting Texas. I guess theoretically they should have gotten the worst 3 seed because they got the best 2. But Texas, I mean, I'd rather play Kansas than Texas. I'd rather probably play Arkansas than Texas. And who's the other 3 seed? West Virginia. I'd definitely rather play West Virginia than Texas. To me, they're the most dangerous 3 seed, too. So I don't see one way or another, honestly. We're a Big Ten show, but we have to be honest. I don't see Michigan making out of this region. I personally don't see Michigan making it to the Elite 8 even. But regardless, check out our bracket challenge, by the way. It's free to join. We do it every year. I posted it on my Twitter, @KidCunny. If you go to @YoungsterOldMan, it is posted there. It will be posted there, one of the two. It's a free ESPN tournament challenge bracket. Nothing more to explain there. But I do not have Michigan making the Elite Eight.
Or they can just check out the bio for the show, youngster. The bio you write up will include the link, I would imagine, or a way to get to it.
There you go. So, number of ways to get to it. But yeah, this is Florida State's a good 4 seed for sure, and then Texas and Alabama can be a worthy Final Four team as well. So, and Florida State could be too.
Yeah, this is by far the hardest region to pick for me. It really is.
Yeah.
It has been.
I would agree. So
what do we think Michigan State's going to do, youngster? Are they going to win their play-in game?
I want to stay seeding-wise. Just go down the line here. Maryland.
Go ahead.
Finish with Michigan State. Maryland. Maryland's the 10 seed here. Michigan State's the 11. For Maryland, they get the 7-seeded UConn to start. For Maryland, this is obviously a coin flip game. It's a 7-10. From what I've read about UConn, James Bouknight, when he plays, UConn's on a different level. He's a guard. He averages over 19 points per game this year, but he's been injured fairly often this season. In the Big East tournament, he went down with an injury, didn't come back, but supposedly the coach said that he was just suffering from cramps. I have no idea if that's the case. It seems like he should be good to go for the NCAA tournament. Again, if he is, UConn is obviously, that's, just from statistically, from what I've seen, he's their most dangerous player. If he's playing, then UConn's good. If he's not playing, then UConn, I'll put it this way. If he's healthy and good to go, UConn's better than a 7 seed. If he's not, then UConn's not as good as a 7 seed. They're worse. So all indications are he's going to be good to go. So UConn is a good team. Maryland, as a 10 seed, we know what Maryland is. They're not special necessarily in any area. They lost their best 2 players last year due to graduation. And so it's been up to guys like Wiggins, guys like Ayala to step up as guards. They don't necessarily have a go-to big at Maryland, but they've got a few capable guards that I like. It's just not necessarily, alpha guys that you can get behind and that can lead you, score 23 points in a game if they need to. It's just not that kind of team. So Maryland's good. They should be in the tournament, but they were one of the last few to be selected in for a reason. This UConn team, again, it seems as though they're pretty good with Bouknight. They're not too great without him. So does he suffer from cramps against Maryland early on and it becomes a huge issue and Maryland wins by 12 points? It could easily happen. If Bouknight's getting going and Wiggins, Ayala can't stop him on the perimeter, UConn could win by 12 points. This to me is kind of a coin flip. It kind of just depends how it plays out, which, is typical for a 7-10. There's not a ton to diagnose and say, yeah, this 7 seed should crush the 10, or the 10 should easily get past the 7. These are almost always coin flip, really good games. So it's kind of how I see it here, Troy.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Maryland, but that UConn team, not a lot of people talked about them. Good, solid team. This is what, like you said, youngster. If UConn won, I wouldn't be surprised. Maryland won, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm rooting for Maryland. Again, I have not completed my bracket. This is one of the games right now. This is why. I don't know where I want to go. My heart wants to go with Maryland because we do a Big Ten show. But realistically, I'm looking at players going, I probably should take UConn. But then I want to take Maryland. Then I want to take UConn. So I just stopped. When I get to that point, I'm like, I've got to clear my head. I've got to think about it. So I haven't even picked this game yet. I don't know which way to go. It can go either way. That's how close it is.
Yeah, I didn't pick it until.
But like you said, youngster, the thing is though, either of these teams could blow the other team out. That could happen.
Yeah.
But again, either one of them could do it. It's not like, well, UConn should blow up Maryland, but it could also be a nail biter. It could go to quadruple overtime. Who knows? That's the joy of the tournament. I haven't picked this one yet. But my heart is with Maryland. I root for every Big Ten team. So there we go.
Yeah. There we go. If Maryland gets past UConn, then they play 2-seeded Alabama most likely in the second round. At that point.
And then they're done. Yeah, they're done at that point.
Right. So
either one of them are done at that point, youngster.
Yeah.
Alabama is a team I think that has, I don't want to say they kind of got shunned of a number one seed, but they are a number one seed in my mind. Like they're on that level. They're on that seeding line.
Yeah. I mean, the committee had them as the fifth best team in the country for a reason. So, and if
I'll let the cat out of the bag. So I've run Alabama to the Final Four, youngster. I've run them to the Final Four. But I haven't completed all the games in the bracket yet. But I think Alabama's that good.
For me, personally, I have Texas going through. But, yeah, I do think the winner of that Alabama-Texas game gets to the Final Four. So that's how we see it.
All right, continue.
Yes, Michigan State.
Keep her rolling, youngster.
Michigan State's the 11 seed, as is UCLA. Again, these two teams play Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern is basically the tip time. So, again, I appreciate that, and I'll be able to record and watch that, no problem. So, yeah, Michigan State, UCLA. What is UCLA? They've gone 5-6 in their last 11 games. They lost in the quarterfinals of the Pac-12 tournament. They're not that great of a team. They're one of the best 68, you could argue. At the same time, there are some teams that got left out that could be better than UCLA, for sure. So, I mean, it's Michigan State, realistically, they're a more talented team. Tom Izzo, March, I trust Michigan State to win this game. This is not a UCLA team where they match up perfectly even, and UCLA has got a really good shot at, winning a game or two in the NCAA tournament. I think that's the case for Michigan State. I don't think it's the case for UCLA, personally. So, I have Michigan State winning that game.
I got Michigan State winning that game, and then I have them pulling an upset in their first round game.
There you go.
Every year, youngster, it seems like somebody from that play-in game wins a game. You don't know which one it's going to be, but I like Michigan State and just the Izzo factor. And they have been playing pretty good basketball. I know they dropped to Maryland in the Big Ten tournament. We thought they were both going to beat Maryland, but, the basketball gods wanted another Big Ten team in the tournament, so they let Maryland beat Michigan State. I think Izzo's going to use that as motivation for his team. I'm not going to say they're going to walk by UCLA, but I think they get by UCLA. That gives them a boost, and then I think they upset and they win and move on, and then I think they lose. But I think they're going to win two games, their play-in game and their first-round game. What do you think? I'm with
you 100%. They play BYU. They would play BYU in the first round. BYU, they're
good team. They're a good team.
They're good. They were up on Gonzaga in the second half in the West Coast Conference final. They are capable, for sure, to make a little noise. But, again, I just think Michigan State has more talent. I know Michigan State has more talent. I've watched BYU play. I know Michigan State has more talent. The one thing I will say about BYU, by the way, is Matt Harms is their center. And for those Big Ten fans that may recognize the name, he was the 7'3" guy from Purdue a couple years ago who transferred, and he ended up landing at BYU. There were a couple guys, Nojel Eastern, Matt Harms, two of their best players decided to transfer. And so this is where Matt Harms landed. He landed at BYU. He is still there. He's a 7'3" guy. He's not fantastic, but he is a good 7'3" college player. So that's something that
we
can
talked about it, youngster. You have to have a big guy in the middle to win in the tournament. That's what gives BYU a chance.
Yeah, that's something Michigan State doesn't have this year. They don't necessarily have that big. So that will pose to be a problem, but I don't see Matt Harms going for 20 points against Tom Izzo, especially because Tom Izzo has game planned against Matt Harms in the past. He knows about Matt Harms. He's played against him multiple times. So I think that gives Michigan State a leg up there as well. They're not going to be surprised at who Matt Harms is at all because they've played him. So I think that gives an edge to Michigan State. Like you, Troy, I've got them beating BYU, and then if they do that, more than likely they play Texas in the second round. And like I said,
yeah, I'm not getting by Texas.
Yeah, going to the Final Four.
They're not getting by Texas.
No, Texas, again, they've got two most likely first-round picks in the NBA draft, bigs on their team. And if Michigan State's lacking somewhere, it's with their bigs. So, you know, that's Marcus Bingham will be the big that they go to, and he's been progressing as of late. He's still trying to reach his potential, for sure. His potential's through the roof, but he's still young. He's not molded into what he will be 2 years from now, for sure. But Michigan State has a big. They just don't have a go-to big like they've had in the past that they can truly count on. That'll be huge against Texas if they play him. So,
yeah, so
that's where we have Michigan State.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's where we have Michigan State falling. We both do. And we both have Maryland falling at the furthest to Alabama in the second round as well. Michigan, it'll be an interesting road to see where they go. But we'll certainly talk about them.
I told you, youngster, I have LSU beating Michigan in the second round, or in the second game.
There you go.
So I've already made that pick. I've put that one in. I've got LSU over Michigan in game 2. I have Michigan State falling again to Texas, and I don't have the Maryland game picked. Yesterday we both agreed Gonzaga will make the Final Four. Today you and I are a little bit different. I got Alabama, you got Texas. Both are capable. Both are very capable. It's one of those things. I think that'll be a game that we see, and that'll be, like you said, the winner of that game is the one that I think is coming out of this region to the Final Four. That was a tough game for me to pick. Very tough game. Too. So either one of our picks I think is good there in the Final Four. All right, youngster, we got to wrap her up. Anything else for the listeners?
Check out interpeakcoffee.com. Interpeak Coffee, that's our sponsor for all the shows that we do. Shout out to them. Tomorrow's show will be the South region. So we've finished the left side of the region with the West.
Southern Indiana.
Yes. The West and the East region, which is the left side of the bracket. And now we're kicking it up to the top right side, the South. That's Baylor's region. So we'll talk about 9-seeded Wisconsin. We'll talk about 4-seeded Purdue. And we'll talk about 2.
We really got to talk about Wisconsin?
Oh, yes. For 50 minutes, Troy. There's pure Wisconsin.
All right, you better get up early then. All right.
Same time.
Thanks for listening in, everybody. Make sure you check out the bio to see how you can get into our bracket challenge. Again, thank you to Interpeak Coffee for being our sponsor. Thank you to the Grueling Truth for hosting our show. We will get back with you tomorrow for another show. For the youngster, I am the